Thank you so much, Steve. Thanks for all the logistical and thanks for everything you're doing behind the scenes to make this the great success that it has been so far. What a great day yesterday. Those of you who were able to join us, I think you, from what we could hear, based on the feedback, everybody really got so much out of it. Just very good information, really engaging speakers, and we're looking forward to another day of that today. So, thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad that you're here. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Ellen Phipps. I'm Executive Director of Aging Together. And on behalf of the Education the Piedmont Dementia, this is a mouthful, the Piedmont Dementia Education Committee, we welcome you here today. We are a committee made up of several organizations in the Culpeper, Fauquier, Rappahannock, Orange, Madison region. And we put on conferences and other educational programs for you throughout the year, specifically related to dementia. I'd also like to give a shout out to our sponsors. And Steve, I don't know if you can put the slide up. We have a really nice slide. So our presenting sponsors, Virginia Geriatric Education Center at the Center on Aging at VCU is a presenting sponsor. We're very grateful to them. And also the Culpeper Wellness Foundation. We're really grateful to them. And AARP Virginia has been a great partner over the years and a keynote sponsor of this event. Rappahannock Rapidan Community Services, again, great partners of ours throughout the year and supporting this event today. Culpeper Human Services, also one of our very good partners and supporting this event today. We're grateful to Culpeper Human Services and all the good folks out there. The Harbor at Renaissance, I'd like to give a special shout out to Lisa Dodson, who's just a tremendous volunteer and just works tirelessly for caregivers and for people living with dementia in our entire region. Thank you for all you do, Lisa, and thanks to the Harbor for your support of this event today. And the Villa at Suffield Meadows. And Sophia, I don't know if you're on today, but we're grateful to you and all you do. And we are grateful to the support of the Villa. In addition to the sponsors, as Steve said, we have many exhibitors, and you will have an opportunity today to visit the exhibit hall, and it will be up on our website for a couple of months following the conference. I wanted to also make sure that you know that handouts will be available on our website, and that the handouts might also appear on the chat. So be looking for those as well, or a link to the handouts should be available on the chat. You can text Steve Gurney if you have any technical problems today at 1-703-966-6182. Please text Steve Gurney if you have any technical difficulties today at 1-703-966-6182. I just also like to say, I know sometimes it can be hard to be in front of Zoom all day, but I'll tell you, the more that you engage and participate and ask questions and get involved, the more you'll get out of this event. Yesterday, our speakers did a fantastic job at engaging the audience, and don't be shy. I say if they're asking for volunteers or if you have a question, please don't be shy. We really think that's how you'll get the most out of it. There are more than 150,000 Virginians that are living with dementia, and we know that the number is about 3 times that when we talk about caregivers. So Aging Together and the Piedmont Dementia Education Committee, we are really dedicated to supporting caregivers in our area in Virginia through support groups, through education, through resources and information. So please reach out to us if you do have any questions or if you do need support. with any of your questions or resources that you might be in need of. It's now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. We were mentioning yesterday how I can't believe, and I still can't get over it's been like 25 years since I first saw Melanie. I first saw her down at Duke, and she was doing a role play with Tipa, and actually there was one other person. It was three people, and I had never seen anything like it in terms of a presentation for understanding, dementia and behaviors, and getting a point across. And it was so powerful. And I remember I was down there with my sister, and we were both just like, "Oh my God, that was amazing!" We were so blown away. And Melanie continues to bring that message to caregivers and healthcare professionals across the country. Throughout the year in and year out. She is a speaker and a mentor with Tipa Snow's Positive Approach to Care. She received her undergraduate degree in nursing from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and her master's degree in family health nursing from Clemson University. And her postmaster's gerontological nurse practitioner, this is a mouthful, and I haven't had enough coffee for this one, Melanie. Gerontological nurse practitioner certificate from Duke University. She's a skilled and experienced advanced practice nurse and nurse educator, conducting over 200 presentations and trainings annually to health professionals, community organizations, first responders, families, and others. She really enjoys improving the lives of people living with dementia, their families, and other care partners. And I think you will see her passion and how her passion comes through in all the work that she does. And we are grateful that she is with us today. So welcome, Melanie. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Ellen. I want to make 2 points. You'll notice that the technical questions are not coming to me, and there's a really good reason for that. So I am so grateful for Steve, and so make a note of that number, because here's the problem: if you get off the Zoom call, you can't get his number. So make a note of that number. I want to thank the wonderful opportunity of having the exhibit hall and the speakers, and I also want to thank Ellen for reminding me of one of my really precious colleagues, is Maureen Charlton, who actually decided to move to Virginia with her husband and kids instead of staying in North Carolina with me and Tipa. So
Say what?
I just didn't get it. I was just very confused by that. But that seemed to be what she chose to do. So that's okay. So we had Rachel for just a minute, and then Rachel disappeared, but I'll bet she'll be back. So I want to also welcome my friend and colleague, Christine Rowdy. And when Rachel comes back, we'll welcome her as well. So I'm going to ask y'all to just start by jotting something in the chat. And you can put in the chat what your current challenging situation is. What is going on in your life, what not your life, your dementia life. What's going on with your person living with dementia, or in your work site. What are the things that are coming up that are creating challenging situations for you? Or just drop in the chat something from yesterday that caught your attention, that was kind of that aha, uh-oh moment for you, that aha, that's why, and uh-oh, now I've got to do something different. So go ahead and drop some of those things into the chat while we're kind of getting ourselves started and ready to go. And Christine will be watching for that. And when Rachel comes back, she'll be watching for that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we'll go ahead and get started. So Christine, are people kind of sharing things that they're concerned about, or things that are they learned from yesterday that they're holding on to?
A couple of challenges have been put, or now we're getting some more comments in. Trying to find a good balance, being definitely sleep deprived is a big one. Adjusting to changes as someone presents without going diamond, as being present with somebody without me going diamond. Let's see, here's one that says, I hope it's okay for me to be here. My dad, I think, is in early stages of dementia. I feel very overwhelmed working and helping my mom. I just feel hopeless. So a lot going on there. Comments about nursing home, keeps begging me to take my brother back home. So Melanie, you hit on a biggie here. There's lots of challenges that we have
And
in our lives.
And one of the things I say sometimes is there are really three parts to having a successful, we called it a journey yesterday. Today, I'll say having a successful approach to challenging situations. And the three things are, one is education. And that's what we're doing for you here today is giving you that education. And for years and years and years, we kind of had the idea that if we just give people enough education, they'll do better. And that's not really exactly right, because part of that education needs to be the opportunity to practice some skills. You know, not just to know stuff, but the second part of that education piece is that opportunity to really practice skills. And so we have ways to do that as well. The second piece is getting support. You know, is being with people who get it, because there are lots of people in your life who care about you and care about the person living with dementia, but they really just don't get it. I got a phone call one day from a person in my support group, and she said, Melanie, I need your brother's phone number. And one of my favorite expressions, so much so I'm gonna ask Christine to drop this in the chat. One of my favorite comments or responses, it's kind of, I call it a back pocket response. It's what you say when you don't know what to say, is tell me more. And so tell me more was kind of my response. Tell me more. And she said, and the reason I asked her to tell me more was because my little brother is a lawyer. And so rarely do people say, you know, something wonderful is happening to my life. I need your brother. Most of the time when people say, I need your brother, it's because something not wonderful is happening in my life. So I said, tell me more, which is one of the most wonderful phrases. Tell me more. And she said, well, I think I'm going to shoot the person who works in the cubicle next to me. And I said, oh, tell me more. And she said, my mother is going to burn down the house because she's leaving the burner on in the stove. She lives alone. I can't sleep. I'm living in terror that I'm going to get a phone call from a neighbor that 911 has been called. The fire department is on their way. I'm just terrified that this is going to happen. And so I think I told my coworker this story, and my coworker said, well, just put a sign up there, maybe a sticky note on the refrigerator, on the stove that says, turn off the burner. And she said, I thought I was going to have to shoot her. You know, I thought I was going to have to throw something at her or just bop her up against the head, because what was the challenge in that situation? So let me introduce Rachel. Rachel was having some camera problems, and we're so glad that Rachel is back and we can see her beautiful face. So Rachel, why do you think that daughter became so disturbed that her coworker said, post a sign that says, cut the stove off? Why do you think that was so distressing?
You just don't understand. You do not have a clue what I'm having to deal with. That's just not, I mean, that's not even, you just don't understand.
You just don't understand. And what the person didn't understand is that dementia is more than just remembering to do stuff. Dementia is so much more than that. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. So this lady was saying, I can't take this. And what the issue was not that her coworker was trying to help. Her coworker cared about her, but very similar to yesterday when we talked about 5 and 3. The helper had this much information and was trying to help somebody with this big of a problem. So going to people for support who get it. And that's why these organizations in the exhibit hall and the places in your community that get dementia and PAC resources can make such a big difference, because they get your situation and they get dementia. Because there's some smart people out there who should never be in a room with a person living with dementia again, because they just don't get it. So we talked about education, and that second part of education being building skills, and we talked about support. And the third piece of that is resource, because I don't care how much you know and how supported you are. There are times when, if Christine is my daughter and I'm her mama, there's only so much, well, hey, sweetheart, when are we going to go? Well, hey, sweetheart, when are we going to go? Well, hey, sweetheart,
Hey,
when are we going to go? Well,
hey,
hey,
Mom, I
sweetheart,
already
when are we
told
gonna-
you we're leaving in
when are we gonna
15
go?
minutes.
When are we going to go, sweetheart? Well, hey, sweetheart, when are we going to go? And there's only so much of that Christine can take, even with skills and even with knowledge and even with support, that Christine is going to need some time. Just where, Christine, do you need? Where do you need to be?
Oh, I need to be Sapphire,
You need to be Sapphire, and you need to be not with mama.
not with Mom.
Not with mama. So yesterday,
Take a break.
one of the things I mentioned is that people have this idea of now and not now. Sometimes we as care partners get the situation where we have with the person living with dementia and not with the person living with dementia. And we need some of that time sometimes. So I think that's a really beautiful place and way to start. So let's go ahead and start doing what I can do for you now, which is giving you some information, so some knowledge, giving maybe a tiny little bit of skill, and then some resources, and encourage you to reach out to that exhibit hall, and encourage you to reach out to your local resources and those PAC resources as well. So let's start looking at going back to this PowerPoint, and let's start looking at it. So I'm going to put this next one up, and I'm thinking, whoops. I'm thinking that perhaps either Christine or Rachel might put this address. So you want those slides from this presentation, you can go and get both of them, because they'll be around there for a couple of weeks. So if they'll put that in there, maybe both of them, maybe you need it twice. So this idea of coping with challenging behaviors, and there's a great big red X on it. That means no, no, no. So not that no, 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 they don't exist, and not that no, 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 they're not challenging, but this idea of changing some language. Language is so important. Language is so important. So we start thinking about a behavior, because just drop into the chat. Who does a behavior belong to? Who does a behavior belong to versus who does a situation belong to? So just drop that in the chat. Who does a behavior belong to versus who does a situation belong to? And I'm going to ask that as things start showing up, maybe Rachel or Christine will share that with me as people start thinking, who does a behavior belong to? Who does a situation belong to? And maybe the chat will be coming up. And I'm going to ask Rachel just to unmute for a minute. So Rachel, when you think of behavior, who does a behavior belong to compared to who does a situation belong to?
I'm thinking that the behavior belongs to the person and that the situation belongs to all the people involved. But in the chat, somebody said the behaviors belong to the disease. Someone else is thinking that the behavior is directed at the person and the situation includes more of the environment and the other people involved.
Yeah, so I love both of those responses. And Rachel said the behavior is connected to the disease. The behavior is really focused on that person. So when I get those calls and I'm talking about what's going on in people's homes and in people's communities and in people's facilities and in people's organizations, and we think about, the person living with dementia, the care partner, and the environment, what people initially focus on wanting to change is that person living with dementia. When the reality is there are a lot of things there we can't really work on. That's why in PAC we have a broader idea of challenging situations. So this is some examples, and some of these I pulled in from my experience. Some of these I pulled in from Christine was on the ball yesterday and took a screenshot or took a photograph of some of your responses and some of the things we just added. So just take a moment and look at some of those and just kind of think about how many of those have been part of your life. Challenges with bathing, or challenges with eating or sleeping too much or not enough, or challenges with getting the person to do something or getting the person to stop doing something, or challenges with getting the person to respond to something. They're so withdrawn and quiet and apathetic, versus getting the managing, interacting, supporting the person who is hyper responsive. So did we get some of the things that mean something to some of y'all? You can just drop in the chat. Yeah, I can see my life there, or no, none of those have anything at all to do with me. So just drop in a yes or a no. And I see Rachel starting to smile a little bit. Rachel, you're smiling.
Oh, I was thinking that a lot of us have dealt with at least one of these things on the list, if not multiple.
Yeah, so lots of those. And there actually are books out there that have if then. If the person bites during bathing, then give them a cookie. If you're expecting that, I'm so sorry, you're going to be really disappointed, because my view of dementia and my view of people living with dementia and my view of challenging situations is, if an if then worked, y'all wouldn't be here. If there was a simple answer, my friend and colleague Lisa Gweither used to say, to every complex question, there is an answer that is simple, easy, cheap, and wrong. And so there's yes, there are those kind of if then kind of things. We think of human beings, not just people living with dementia, but us as care partners, we think of them as being much more complicated than that. So in that idea of people being much more complicated than that, I'm going to show you a little video clip. And the video clip that I'm going to show you is an interaction between a person living with dementia and a person who is fairly new to the world of interacting, connecting, engaging with people living with dementia. Because the reality is, many of us who have caregiving experiences, taking care of children or taking care of other people in our lives, aren't prepared for people living with dementia. Many of us who have professional backgrounds, whether nurses or social workers or rehab people or physicians or psychologists or social, I think I said social workers twice, direct care workers, CNAs, or activities people, any of those people don't have a lot of dementia skills. So we've got somebody who is in that diamond state, somebody who has a lot of strengths and a lot of skills left, and has a challenge. Something isn't working for her. And we're trying to match her up with somebody who's got a little bit. Now, don't look at him and say, oh, he's terrible, he's bad. I want you to look at him and think, what does he have going, his strengths and his skills and what does he need to work on. So we're probably going to watch this a couple of times. We're going to watch it once just kind of to watch it. We're going to watch it once just kind of to watch it.
No, but hey,
Miss Snow, hey.
look,
Look.
I've been trying to call and call,
You've been trying
and
to-
nobody answers the call
The phone?
thing. Yeah, the call thing that you guys have hooked up, because I'm out of coffee.
Tifa, I need
And
you
I'm,
to. I need
and
you,
I'm
Tifa,
gonna go get some
Tifa,
coffee
you
in
can't
the
go.
lounge.
You gotta get back in your room right now.
I'm going to the lounge and getting coffee.
You can't go to the lounge.
I
right
can
now.
too. You watch me. I walk right down this hall and go.
Tifa, you can't
You are
do
not
that.
the boss of me. You guys didn't answer my call.
Well, were you calling the right number?
Do you think I don't know the number to call?
No, I don't know.
Oh, this is I'm out of here. This is
Tifa, you gotta get back in your room.
I'm not going back in my damn room.
All righty. So does that kind of thing happen in some of your homes? Does that kind of thing happen in some of your communities or your facilities or your organization? Or have you seen that kind of thing happen with other people? Just drop in the chat. Yes, this looks familiar, or no, I've never seen anything like this ever before. Just drop into the chat. And I'm guessing, Christine, are you thinking it looks pretty familiar based on your background in adult day and your other kinds of experiences?
Yes, I'm thinking it looks quite familiar. And we're starting to get some yeses in the chat. That's
Okay.
my mom every day.
So we're seeing some yeses. Rachel, is that looking familiar to you as well? So Rachel and
Yes.
Christine are saying yes, and we're seeing some yeses in the chat. So take a deep breath and let go of what you saw there, because we're going to go back and we're going to move your shoulders around. We need to do this too. We're going to go back and we're going to look at it a couple more times. And this time, we're really going to look at Tifa. So I want you to really notice Tifa. Now, how many of y'all don't have to notice some things about Tifa? What were some of the things you already automatically remember about Tifa from this interaction? Just drop those in the chat. What kinds of things really struck you viscerally, intensely about Tifa? What did you notice about her? So just drop some of those things in the chat.
Somebody said angry.
Okay, so angry.
I noticed that she was really on a mission. Yep. She was on a mission to go somewhere. She was determined, agitated. Her voice was high-pitched and loud. She didn't call it a phone. So she was using different language, different words. Very mobile, angry, intent, agitated again.
So some words there that are really important. So some words that is there a difference between the word determined and the word agitated? So kind of hold on to that as we look back at it. She was insulted. Because when Matthew, there was one moment there when he said, "Did you do it right?" How many of you like to be right as human beings? Do y'all like to be right? I like to be right. Rachel likes to be right. Christine likes to be right. I'm betting if we were able to see you, I would see all of your hands going up. That's a human thing. So when that moment came up of, did you do it right? The reflex was to become, of course I did it right. That's not a Tifa thing, that's a human. It is a Tifa thing, but it's also a human thing. So let's go back and look at it. This time, I want you to look at Tifa, noticing those things about her, but paying particular attention to preserved skills, paying specific attention to what does she still have that we can then use, because I can't use things that are gone. If I spend money, I can't use that money anymore. If I have money, I can use it. So those things that are gone, I can't use anymore, or I can't use right in this minute. I can only use the strengths that are there in this moment. So let's look at that video clip again, and let's think about what's going on from that perspective of what are the preserved skills.
Nobody. Hey,
Miss Snow, hey.
look,
Look.
I've been trying to call and call,
You've been trying
and
to-
nobody answers the call
phone?
thing.
Okay, so right now, what are you noticing, Rachel, that is a preserved skill for Tipa? What is she, what was she able to do?
Well, as one person said, she does have an ability to recognize personal needs, but
Okay.
she knows that there's a problem and she's going to do something about it.
Okay, she knows there's a problem. She's going to do something about it. What did she try to do?
Well, she tried to follow the rules, so she tried to call.
So she tried to follow the rules. She tried to call, and we might guess that some kind of a notification system or some kind of a call button system or some kind of something that she's been told. What has she been told, Rachel?
Well, if you need something or you need help, then you're supposed to call for help.
And so she needs something and she tried to call, and what happened?
Well, nobody came. Nobody came when I called.
Nobody came when it called. And Rachel was looking kind of sad and disappointed and let down that nobody came when they called. Tipa's showing us a different response on that possible reaction spectrum, which is she feels like what?
I did my part and you did not follow through on your part. What's
You
wrong
let-
with you guys?
What's wrong with y'all? I did it and it didn't work. So we've got some strengths. She can express herself verbally. She knows that there was this thing that she was supposed to do. And when it didn't work, she went out looking for resources. So let's look at the next little bit and see what happens.
Yeah, the call thing that you guys have hooked up, because I'm out of coffee.
You're out of Tipa, I need
And
you
I'm,
to. I need
and
you,
I'm gonna
Tipa,
go get some
Tipa,
coffee
you
in
can't
the
go.
lounge.
You gotta get back in your room right now.
I'm going to the lounge and getting coffee.
You can't go to the lounge.
I
right
can
now.
too. You watch me. I walk right down this hall. Go.
Tipa, you can't
You are
do
not the
that.
boss of it. You guys didn't answer my call.
Well, were you calling the right number?
Do you think
Okay,
I?
there it is. And we don't need to explain any more about what happened there, but I'm going to ask Christine, did you notice some other things that Tipa is still able to do? What is she still trying to do, even though she's getting pretty distressed?
She's got a lot of strength in her physical body. She's walking. She's headed somewhere.
So she's walking while she's talking. So she's able to do a couple of things at one time. She's got something in her hand. She's using the other handed gesture. So she's got a lot of strength in her body. Yeah. And a lot of skill in her body. Let's see what else happens.
I don't know the number to call.
I don't know.
Oh, this is I'm out of here. This is
Tipa, you gotta get back in your room.
I'm not going back in my damn room.
All right, so we've noticed some things about Tipa. So I'm going to ask if some other people who are participating, Christine gave us some great things. Rachel gave us some great things. Were there some other things that you noticed that were strengths and skills about Tipa? So just drop those into the chat. Anything you want to add?
One person mentioned her determination to accomplish her goal.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I was talking with a friend who's got a very intense, strong-willed daughter. And we've had moments of talking. I actually have like 12 friends who have very strong-willed, determined daughters. And we've talked about how that at some point in their lives is going to be a huge gift. But right now, when they're in elementary school, not so much when it comes to getting the homework done. So that idea of being determined, knowing what you want, and the frustration, but she's still expressing. When you look at Tipa, do you think she's got a lot of impulse control or not a lot of impulse control? Thinking about how frustrated and distressed she is, thinking about this part of the brain with that pullback, what do you think she might want to do when Matthew says, did you do it right? What do you think she wanted to do in that moment? Now, Rachel, you've known Tipa a long time. What do you think she wanted to do in that moment?
I'm guessing something along the lines of popping him.
Okay, especially since the reality is Teepa has known Matthew since he was a newborn. So in that moment, she might really want to put him in his place. And it might involve popping him one or pushing him away or doing something. So even though she's expressing a lot of frustration and anger, and she looks like she's really out of control, the truth is what?
Well, as one person said, she didn't throw her cup at him, so she still has some self-control.
Exactly. She didn't throw her cup at him. I was working with the lady the other day and I had her in this hand under hand position and she was really, really upset. And so I was giving her this kind of support. And every once in a while, she would draw her nails in to dig in. And then I would say too much and she would go back to holding on hard. And so she was able to have that reflex. She was expressing, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I don't like this. I don't like this. When she would get to this point of putting her nails in, I'd say too much, and she would go back to this. So she had that impulse control. So some strengths of Teepa. Let's watch the video one more time. And this time we're going to look at Matthew. Now there are obviously, he is a work in progress. It is obvious that he is a work in progress. There are some things he needs to work on. So notice those, identify those, but also notice about him. What are some of the things that he actually is doing pretty well? Or at least maybe starts off doing pretty well before he goes to a different gem state. So let's watch it one more time, noticing Matthew this time.
Nobody. Hey,
Miss Snow, hey.
look,
Look.
I've been trying to call and call,
You've been trying
and
to-
nobody answers the call.
So what did he start out with? What's pretty good right there. So what do you notice, Christine, that he's doing actually pretty good right there?
He's reflecting back what she's needing.
So he reflected back
He's
to her. He's paying attention to what she's paying attention to. So he didn't
repeated some of her
automatically,
words.
he repeated some of her words. How is his body position?
He's not confrontational. He's a little bit supportive. So he's
He's
kind
a
of
little-
to the side.
He's a little bit to the side of her, so he's not throwing himself in front of the door as she's coming out yet.
Call and call,
We've been trying
and
to-
nobody answers the call
phone?
thing. Yeah, the call thing that you guys have hooked up because I'm out of coffee.
Yeah, Teepa, I need
And
you
I'm,
to. I need
and
you,
I'm gonna
Teepa,
go get some
Teepa,
coffee
you
in
can't
the
go.
lounge.
You gotta get back in your room right now.
I'm going to the lounge and getting coffee.
can't
And
go to
that's
the
where it falls apart, because he was okay until she went past this imaginary line. And then he went to put your hand up like this. Agenda, 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 because in this particular situation, his agenda is she's not supposed to be out walking around. And we don't know if she's not supposed to be out walking around because of COVID. We don't mask when we do these because you can't hear anything when we're masked when we're doing these. So we don't know if it's COVID. We don't know if there's something that's going on with the time of what's going on, or if but there's something wrong. She's not supposed to be in the room. So at that moment, he goes from trying to be Sapphire, he's a vulnerable Sapphire, to being a diamond, a vulnerable diamond. And let's just pay attention and see if he doesn't make it as bad as it could go.
I can too. You watch me. I walk right down his hall. Go.
Teepa, you can't
You are
do
not
that.
the boss of it. You guys didn't answer my call.
Well, were you calling the right number?
Do you think I don't know?
Which is a reasonable question, except it's not a reasonable question.
The number to call?
I don't know.
Oh, this is I'm out of here. This is
Teepa, you gotta get back in your room.
I'm not going back in my damn room.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to talk about that. So I'm going to ask other people. So he repeated some of her words. So that was something somebody dropped in there. Y'all just drop in some of the positives about Matthew, some of the things he did that kept it from that, some things he didn't do that might have made it worse. So just drop some of those things in there, or some of the things you noticed that he did fairly well. And while they're coming up with theirs, because sometimes it does take a while to get things put into the chat. So I'm going to ask Christine, what did you think Matthew did that might have been kept it from getting worse?
I noticed that he kept his hands to himself. He didn't try to reach out and grab her or restrain her.
Yeah, because what do you think would have happened if he had put his hands on her?
I don't
Yeah,
think it would have gone very well.
yeah, that coffee might not have stayed in the cup. Someone said there might have the cup might not have stayed in the hand. So some things that he did pretty well, but it's really also very clear that there were definitely some things you that he needs to do different. So let's hold on to this scenario and let's go back to the PowerPoint and let's start looking at some of the other pieces we can use to maybe start helping this go a little bit better. So I mentioned we're not going to give you the if then kind of scenarios. Instead, we're going to use this idea of putting together a puzzle and then matching strategies to really work with what those pieces of the puzzle are. So that's one way to look at it, but I kind of like this way of looking at it. So we've got these boxes and we've got 3 on the top, and the 3 on the top are things like health and wellness and fitness. So things about the person's body, things about the person as a human being, and things about what's going on with that person, thinking about the changes that are going on in their brains. So those are the 3 pieces that kind of belong to the person living with dementia. Now we can do things about those. If someone is having pain and I help manage their pain, then their health and wellness is going to go on. If I know things about the person, I can do better, and about their brain change. I can change somebody's brain. We talked yesterday about we can impact that chemical change that might relate to a change in gym state. That structural change is a one-way street. So things about the person. And at the bottom, we're looking at things that we might have a little bit more impact on, things that belong more to us. And that's where this idea of challenging situations come in. So those pieces are time use, things about the people who are around the person, the stakeholders, the other people in the environment, and then what is going on in that environment. So let's move in a little bit more to talk about what some of those are. So we're going to start by talking about the first piece of the puzzle is who this person is and who they have always been. So things about their personality, things about their preferences, things about their history. So we're actually going to use this example that we saw in this video. What are the things that you can think, you can already kind of feel, you already kind of think you know about Teepa as a person? So thinking about it from that perspective of who is Teepa as a person, and just kind of drop some of those things you've noticed about Teepa, not the Teepa who is on YouTube and on TikTok and on Facebook and all that Teepa, but the little Teepa we spent this 45 seconds, just this 45 seconds with, the things that you can already notice about Teepa. So I'm going to ask Rachel, or can you kind of call out some of those as they come through?
Yes, the first one out was feisty. Next one was she's confrontational, and third was independent.
Okay, so there is a theme. There is a theme there of things, and does that kind of fit with the Teepa that you kind of saw in that video clip, Rachel?
Yes. We also have strong-willed, and she knows what she wants.
Okay, so really kind of, she is not or in this moment in her life, she is a person who knows what she wants and goes for it. She's good at advocating for herself, and she is not a person to sit around and wait. So she's got pretty high energy. She likes to be in control of the situation. She likes to get her needs met. So those are some things we know about her as a person. So let's talk for a moment about things that we know about Matthew. We didn't talk so much about these things about Matthew. So drop in the chat some of the things you can kind of pick up on about Matthew. What were some of the things that you would use to describe Matthew as a human being, as a person, knowing that a lot of the attention was sucked into Tifa in that interaction, and it was only 45 seconds. So Christine, what are some of the things that are coming up there about Matthew?
That he is a caregiver and kind, rule follower, and genuinely wants to be helpful. He's nice, he wants to help, maybe a little anxious. He has a calm demeanor.
Okay. So he didn't seem to be often to potentially provoking or intentionally provoking. He seemed like he wanted to be there. He seemed to care about Tifa and also care about his job, following the rules and getting his job done. And we kind of said he's kind of new and kind of not got a lot of experience. So that's really a good place to start, is starting with what we know about that person. So let's move on to another what that really means. So that includes things like knowing who the person is. And some of these we're not going to know in a 45-second interaction. And some of these we're going to know a lot more about if the person is in our family. Some of those we might not know if the person is in our family. Because if I'm thinking about my parent, I might look at my parents' values and beliefs and personality and stress and hot buttons and comfort and leisure and spiritual. I might look at my parent, having known them always as their daughter. I might look at them differently than somebody who knew them as a teenager. Is that true about you too? Do people who know you now think of you as differently than people who knew you as a teenager? So sometimes being part of the person's family is a real benefit. Sometimes knowing the person all your life makes it a little bit more complicated, because sometimes we know things that aren't really accurate for this person in this moment. But it really does make a difference what you like and you don't like. My friend Maureen, who we talked about, I mentioned, doesn't like cats. And she says, I don't care how far I get in dementia, I'm not going to like cats. Don't give me a cat and tell it I don't like them, I'm not going to like them. So the things that you like, the things that you don't like are going to, some of those are going to stay true to you throughout your life. So take a moment and drop into the chat. What are some of those things, not about your person, but some of those things about you that would be really critically important if you couldn't speak for yourself? Really important to know about you as a human being if you couldn't speak for yourself. So I'm going to start with Christine this time. Christine, what are some things that would be really important to know about you if you couldn't speak for yourself?
I told my husband to please always make sure I have chapstick on my lips and lotion on my hands.
Okay, so you don't want to be dry.
Don't want to be dry.
So chapstick on your lips, lotion on your hands, those kind of things are really, really important to Christine. What's important to you, Rachel?
I think for me, music would be really important. Music that I like, but having music helps me tolerate a lot of different things.
So having music is one of the things that supports you. So let me ask you, any kind of music?
Usually music, I mean, there are different kinds of music that I like, but it would be more the music that I'm familiar and comfortable with.
So music that you would choose. So that might not, do you like bluegrass music?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay if you're outside at a barbecue. If it kind of fits, like I love beach music at the beach, but I don't want to listen to beach music in my house. So it's kind of connecting the situation, connecting the person, connecting what the environment is, what the expectations are. So what are some of the things, Rachel, that are showing up in the chat? People dropping some things in that would be important to them?
One person mentioned her faith, and another person said, I need time outdoors.
Well, so
And
that's not I like or I want, that's I need
need.
time outside.
Another person likes laughter, comedy, TV, loves music. Someone else said food preferences.
Yeah, I had a friend who said, if you ever bring me a plate with green beans on it, just expect it to follow you out the door. Because I don't like green beans and I'm not going to have them. And I don't care if they're not touching my other food. I don't want them in my room. So cool.
Another person said, if I don't eat, I get hangry.
Okay, so that's a great one. That sometimes we think people are being agitated or aggressive, and the real thing is they're not getting their basic needs met. And we're going to talk about those kind of towards the end. So let's go back to the next piece of the puzzle. The next piece of the puzzle is the dementia level and types of dementia. So what type of dementia you have makes a difference, what level, where in the gem states you are. So if we think about where you are with your brain, your amygdala. So everybody do this with me, draw circles like this. So this is when there's something that you're aware of what's going on. This is when it starts to feel risky. This is when it starts to feel dangerous. So that's the threat side. So do this with me again. This is when I like something, I want something, I need something. So in that little clip, Teepa's brain, where do you think she started when she didn't have coffee? Ooh, we left that out. We left out something else we know about Teepa is that she really likes that coffee, So for that coffee for her, was that coffee a like, a want, or a need? And I'm going to ask you just to drop it in the chat. Was it a like, a want, or a need? That maybe not the coffee, but the not having coffee. Where did that put her? Was it a like, a want, or a need?
Well, someone said a need with an exclamation point.
Okay, I kind
Lots of needs coming in. Lots of needs.
Lots of needs coming in. So when she started the interaction with Matthew, where do you think she was? Do you think she was kind of aware? Do you think it was feeling kind of risky, or was it all the way up into the danger zone? So what do you think, Rachel?
I don't think it started out in the danger zone. So maybe depends when it started. When she came out, I'm thinking more risky.
So she kind of started out kind of risky. She was not just aware that she didn't have coffee. She was like, I don't have coffee and it's a problem. And then by the end, she wasn't all the way up at a 10, but she was up high enough that it was in the red zone for sure. Yeah. So Christine, what do you think about Matthew? What do you think he started the interaction? Was he aware, risky, or was he in a danger zone when he started the interaction?
I kind of think he was aware.
Okay, so he was kind of aware. He
Or
was
alert.
Yeah, hey, Miss Snow. He knew she was coming out aware. And then by the end, where did he go up to?
He definitely went up. Risky, almost dangerous.
Risky, almost dangerous. And whereas Teepa was more expressive of it, the way you could tell Matthew was getting up into that danger zone was his gem state went from diamond down to where he really didn't have any words. He couldn't figure out what to do. He was really down kind of in kind of really changing his gem state quite a lot. So this part of the brain change is really important. Gems is part of this, and we spent a good bit of time talking about gems, so we're not going to move into that so much. The third part is that idea of other kinds of things that are going on with the house, other kinds of things that are going on with the body. And the ones that are really, really important to me because I'm a nurse maybe, but because I've also seen what happens when they don't get managed very well, are things like pain and shortness of breath and not having basic needs kind of met. So that becomes one of my key pieces. If I'm looking, are people having some of those conditions? Because I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment, and I'm just going to ask y'all, do you think dementia cures arthritis? So I'm going to ask Christine and Rachel to show me thumbs up or thumbs down. Do you think dementia cures arthritis? Yeah, they're thinking that it really doesn't. Do you think dementia cures stomach pain, kind of GERD kind of pain? Do you think it helps cures it or not so much? Not so much. Do you think that dementia cures migraines? Yes or no? Really not no. So if we start to leave off those pieces of what's going on in the rest of your body, we're not ever going to really make that connection with what's really going on with that person. So I'm going to go back to this. Did we notice anything? I didn't really notice anything going on that was obviously physical about Tipa or about Matthew. But we don't know that because we didn't really explore that. We don't know if maybe Tipa is in pain, which makes, if you're in pain, do you need coffee more or less as a coping strategy? Yeah, I see Rachel and Christine going, I need my coffee more when I'm having pain, or Tipa would need her coffee more. So let's move on then to that fourth piece of the puzzle. And the fourth piece of the puzzle is the environment. And the important thing about the environment is there can be things that the environment supports and things that the environment makes much more difficult. So in that environment, thinking about the environment that Tipa and Matthew were interacting with, Christine, were there things about that environment that kind of supported the situation, or things in that environment that kind of made it a little more challenging? Noticing you just had one video of one shot of one corner.
Well, that's a really great question. Tipa had one direction to go this way, and Matthew was at the end. And then when she turned, there was another hallway. And so it made it easy for her to see that and want to go, perhaps. Maybe
So
there was a door at the end.
So it kind of teed. So her little alcove kind of went to this thing where there was one way to go and one way to go, and Matthew was kind of in this part, and so she had an escape valve. Yeah. She wasn't dead-ended. There were options there. Did that make it better? Maybe.
Yeah, she needed an option.
Yeah, she needed an option. Were there things in that environment that didn't give her the information that she really needed?
Yeah. She was looking for coffee. She didn't.
So was it really clear which way to go for coffee?
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not, based on what we were saying. So there's a way that we can use the environment and things in the environment to really support our goals. So for example, if you look at these two pieces, or actually three pieces, but these two groupings of furniture. Now, we spent a lot of time during COVID telling people, no, don't. Don't get that close, don't hug, don't hold, don't. So if you look at these two pieces of furniture, and I'm going to ask you just to start dropping into the chat, green or yellow, which of these pieces of furniture really encourage you to keep your distance a little bit, but still be connected and still be able to engage? So which of the furniture setting really kind of give you that message of keep your distance and have a conversation? So Rachel, are things showing up in the chat? Are people dropping in their colors yet?
Yeah, people are saying the yellow chairs.
Yeah, the yellow chairs kind of support that. Stay in your own chair, because if I'm feeling isolated and alone and somebody I care about is sitting on that couch, when I come in and sit down, where am I going to sit? And if that person is over here Am I going to sit over here on my side, or am I going to sit right up on top of them, maybe even in their lap? We're going to be hip to hip in this chair. So thinking about those things in the environment that we can use to do work so we don't have to work. So any work the environment does is work that I don't have to do. So let's look at this next one. If I have been lonely and I haven't spent a lot of time with people and friends, and I go to sit at this round table, what am I going to do with my chair? I'm just wondering, Christine, what would you do with your chair if you were at that round table and you hadn't been able to hang out with people very much?
I might scooch it up next to the other person's chair.
So you might scooch it up, because circles are inclusive. Circles are, we cannot, yeah, it's not very fun. So Rachel, if you look at that square table, what do you notice is different between the square table and the round table? Besides it's square and round, I know that.
Well, I'm thinking that it would, even if you moved over to your side, there's that table leg. And so it kind of, you can only get so close to the other person.
Yeah, so there's,
yeah.
Go ahead.
You have edges to your table.
So there's edges and there's some restrictions, and it looks more like mine and yours. There's kind of this message of mine and yours with that square kind of table. So I'm not saying go sell all of your round tables and buy square tables, or get rid of all of your couches and buy chairs. I'm not saying that at all. Never going to say that. But just saying, think about with the environment that you've got, the pieces that you've got, how can you configure things so the environment is doing part of the work? Because any work the environment does is work I don't have to do, and I've got plenty of work to do. So the fifth piece of the puzzle has to do with us. The fifth piece of the puzzle has to do with the care partners, the way we approach, the way we interact, the way we make the connections. It's us. So we use something in PAC that's called the positive physical approach. And it's a very standardized way of starting an interaction to most likely get the response that you want. Because my bottom line goal is for everybody to be safe. And my best way of keeping everybody safe is not to have anything happen to that person living with dementia that moves them from aware into risky, into dangerous. So my main goal, and what the positive physical approach does, is provide a way of making a connection in a non-confrontational, supportive kind of way. So it's stopping at the edge of public space. You might want to take a picture of this one real quick, because we're going to use this one in just a moment. Pause at the edge of public space. Start with your open hand next to your face and smile. Call the person by name. Then move your hand. We didn't get into this, but thinking about visual field, move your hand into where that person's visual field is. Move your hand into that handshake position. Then kind of slowly and steadily move slowly to the side, moving that handshake into a hand underhand, into that supportive stance, and then getting at the level where the person can really see you, but not in a way that you're right in front of them, blocking them, like Matthew wound up at a certain point. Then make the connection and wait for their response. So the reason I ask you to take a photograph of this, because we're going to go back to a different video, and we're going to look at someone who's got, maybe a few hundred years on the first person, and someone who maybe has, maybe a few hundred or a few decades of more experience. And someone who maybe has, a few years more of doing this positive physical approach. And let's see how it works different. We're going to only look through this. We're going to probably look through this twice. So the first time we're just going to look through it just to notice what happens. And then the second time we're going to go back looking more specifically for some of those positive physical approach pieces. So let's give it a look.
Tipa, hey, listen.
What's wrong?
Well, this I've called and
That
called
is- you
y'all,
called?
and nobody answers.
And nobody
No,
answers.
and look, do you see this?
Oh Lord, that
I
is
asked-
ridiculous.
what do you think I want?
That is
What do you think I
absolutely
want?
ridiculous. You need coffee.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, I
you need
do.
coffee. Listen,
Yes.
I need help right here. I know.
Here?
It's so frustrating. They have all these rules around
Well,
here.
I'm
I know
trapped in
it,
here,
right?
and I'm
And you're
trying
trying
to
to
call
do this-
y'all,
that must be-
and nobody
what?
answers it. Well, I don't know. You
That's
push the button,
ridiculous,
and y'all
isn't
are
it?
supposed to, hello, that's what
Somebody's
you
supposed to
said.
come and help,
And
you were
I
out of-
did it,
yeah.
and nobody.
So I'm going to pause right there. Not just because it seemed to be buffering, but also because it's a good time to pause. So what did you notice if you look at that list of things from the positive physical approach? What were some, drop into the chat some of the things that you noticed that Melanie did, some of the things that you noticed that I did that maybe went a little differently. So what did you notice from that positive physical approach that I did? Some of those pieces. While it's taking a moment for people to kind of go back to their phone and think about what happened with Tipa, kind of think about it. I'm going to ask Rachel, is there anything that you noticed specifically about that PPA stuff that that I did?
You know, it's funny. The thing that really struck me was how you connected with her. And I see in the chat, somebody mentioned you matched her energy. And for me, that was, you kind of came in matching that kind of sound of distress and picking up there was a problem. And so, yeah, like reflecting the sense of urgency that there's something wrong.
Yeah. So thank you for noticing that. So Rachel, have you ever been upset about something and somebody told you, calm down? You're overreacting. You need to calm down. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes.
How did that go for you? Did that make you feel loved and respected, or you're shaking your head? That wasn't.
No, actually, it tends to make me more upset.
So it made you more upset. So I'm just going to ask the whole group, is Rachel the only one that makes more upset when somebody tells you to calm down, you're overreacting? Christine, I saw you kind of shaking your head. It doesn't work for you either.
Doesn't work for me.
Doesn't work for you. What about for the people who were on the call, on the webinar? Did that work?
We're getting no, not at all. Doesn't work for me. No.
Okay. So making that connection, did it seem to work for Tipa? Or making the connection, what do you think would have happened if I told her to calm down? Would have gotten more distressed, has the opposite effect. What do you think matching did for her? So whether this is really, I see this, I ran out of coffee and it's just an inconvenience. For Tipa running out of coffee, it was really an urgency. So that matching that energy and matching the words and matching the things made a difference. Anything y'all are noticing in the chat, either Christine or Rachel, that looks particularly interesting?
Well, one person said that it actually makes things worse if you do the calm down, because now the person has two problems. They have the original problem, plus they have the problem that now they're all alone and you don't understand. Whereas what you did, it makes it feel like, oh, now that person has an ally. And so it reduces the stress of being all alone and feeling like you're alone and abandoned.
Yeah. So that's it. So yesterday we did this and we talked about people losing memory and language and some sensory motor and some executive function and some vision and some of those things, but still keeping the connection. So they've still got that person. I think one of the things that people with living with dementia often lose is that sense that they've got somebody on their side. So I think dementia is an isolating disease, an isolating condition. It does tend to make your world smaller, but I think there's a lot that we do that can either make that world feel more connected and feel like that person has something on his or her side, or makes people feel more isolated. And we as human beings, basic need is to feel like we've got somebody on our side. That's not a dementia thing. So that may be true for the person living with dementia. Going back to my person I told you about at the beginning with the phone call with her coworker who just told her what she needed to do. I wonder if maybe that was part of what she was losing, was that sense of having somebody on her side who listens and doesn't try to fix it, because dementia is not going to be a fixable situation. We can make connections, we can provide support, but it's going to be a moving kind of ongoing kind of challenging situation. So it's finding those pieces that make it fit in this moment. So thank y'all for sharing that. We're going to go back to that video, see if a little bit more.
Nobody answered.
And nobody answered. Well, listen, coffee.
Yes.
I can take care of this. While I'm getting, could you do me a favor and just wipe this off for me while
You
I
want me
grab
to
it?
wipe all this
If you could
off?
wipe this and
Is
the
this
chair
the
off.
thing they've been talking about you're supposed to do?
If you could help me with that, I can.
Do you want me to do here too?
That would be great. I was not going to ask you for all that, but if you
Well,
don't mind,
just don't take a long time.
I'm not. I'll be right back.
All right. This is what needed to be done in the first place. If y'all keep it clean, people don't have problems. And then we wouldn't all be locked up like prisoners.
Like prisoners.
Like prisoners.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
Well, this is what you need to teach people to do. See, you have
people
to do
just
that.
don't learn.
You'd have to do that. You've got gloves on, hold that.
I'll take this.
Well, wait, I've got
Right.
to, you've got to do the edges.
Oh,
See,
the edges?
this is where people make this mistake. And you've got to do and this, see, you can't just, see how you open it? Well, then that's germs.
It is. You are exactly right.
And I know germs when I see them, and now I'm better, but, well, oh, good. That's what I was looking for
Yeah.
from before, and
Yeah.
you might want to wash your hands,
That
even
is
though
a
you've
good-
got all those things on.
That is a good suggestion. I will take care of that right away.
I'm gonna put these in the trash, because people
Right.
shouldn't reuse them.
People should not. It's ridiculous what
Well, it
people do.
is true.
All righty.
Thank you for
You
your
are
help.
so, Tika, thank you for your help.
My
I knew
pleasure.
You would be the one.
That's, well,
Can I get that for you?
sure.
All
But,
right.
you know, next time answer when I call you.
You know, just in case that does it,
Yeah,
I'll come back in 5 minutes and check in.
I appreciate it,
All right.
because nobody else does.
I hate that. I'm so sorry.
Well, me too.
All righty. I'll be back.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So take a deep breath. And the difference between 45 seconds, which was what the first clip was, and 2 minutes and 45 seconds, 2 minutes well spent. You're thinking, yes, or drop in the chat. Yes, that was a good 2 minutes. That's the best 2 minutes of the day. So drop in the chat. Yes, that 2 minutes was worth it, or no, that was a waste of time. So what are y'all seeing in the chat, Christine? Lots of yeses, lots of thumbs ups, lots of good. So why do you think the approaches that I use, some of them are standardized, some of them, like that positive fiscal approach, are standardized. Some of those pieces of making that verbal, the I'm sorry, some of those things are standardized, and we have resources for those. What do you think I did specifically? So I'm gonna go back, before you answer that question, I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint real quick. And we're gonna look at the last piece. We've got hand under hand. The last piece are the 6 pieces of the puzzle, and thinking about what those pieces are the thing about time, the idea about routines, and the idea about life, and the idea about having expectations that fit the day with the right balance of work and rest and fun and self-care, that right balance. But we're going to go back for a second, and we're going to look at, some of you are all going, she's never going to finish because she went all the way back to slide 10. And there are 43 slides and she went all the way. How long is she going to think? And Ellen's going, maybe she really does think we're giving her all day. Oh dear, does she think? I know I've got till 11:30. I'm watching my time, I promise. So if we go back to this slide, we go back to that idea of things about Tipa, things about us. What did you notice that was different between this interaction and the interaction with Matthew about the person? What was different about me, about the helper person, the people, the care partner people? What was different? So Rachel, can you answer that for me? What was different about me versus Matthew?
Well, that's tricky because I think it's more than one thing, but I think you coming alongside of Tipa and really kind of figuring out what was the unmet need underneath everything. Yes, you got the coffee, but was that really the unmet need? Was that everything? And really kind of establishing that relationship. You didn't challenge her with, are you sure you did this right? Do you know what you're doing? No, you can't do that.
So Rachel's pointing out some of the skills that I didn't challenge her. I moved to the side of her. I knew a little bit more about her, and I simply had more things in my toolbox that I could try because of 112 years of experience. So she pulled out some of those kinds of really critically important kinds of things. Christine, is there anything you would add, or anybody want to drop something in the chat that they would add?
You have several things in the chat. You gave her something to do. You offered an opportunity for Tipa to feel useful and productive, which means Melanie was prepared, maybe set up the environment and had a plan for what she could get Tipa to do while she goes and gets the coffee. So Tipa is feeling productive and useful, supportive and helpful.
So kind of paying attention to who she was as a person, that kind of gave me some strategies that I could use and I could integrate. That she likes to be busy, she likes to be helpful. The happiest she was in that whole clip was when she was fussing about people not cleaning. The very happiest she was in that entire almost 3 minutes was when she was fussing about people not doing it right. That was a really good thing for her. So if you look at these pieces of puzzle, it's starting to kind of fit in how being aware of the person and where they are in their brain change and what might be going on with their health and wellness, and then adapting our approaches, the environment, and the way we're managing our time to kind of find that fit for that. So I'm going to go back to where we were. So some people don't panic and think, oh, she was all the way back to slide 10. We're going to be here forever. And I'm going to pull out this one additional piece. So this one additional piece is looking at what might be, and Rachel mentioned it really nicely, what might be some less obvious unmet needs. So we're driven as human beings because of physical needs. I mean, the reason we get up in the morning often is because we have an elimination need. That might be why we don't hit the snooze button, but so many times before we get up. So that idea of these physical needs of we need to have enough to drink and enough to eat. We need to have enough time to rest and enough time to be active. We need, and that's need, that's not want or like. We need to get rid of some of that stuff. We need to be comfortable, and we need to have pain managed. And that's all kinds of comfort and all kinds of pain. And we often either have as an unmet need emotional distress, or we can show the physical distress through emotional distress. So if you'll put your hand up like this, a lot of times what we see is the anger, but the anger, when we peel it back, when we meet the needs of the anger, then often what we find are some other emotions. It might be sadness, it might be loneliness, it might be fear or being scared, or it might be being bored, not having anything to do. So we start to put those together with the physical needs. Then we begin to have an idea of how we're going to match the unmet need, the pieces of the puzzle into those specific kinds of things that you brought up. So I'm actually going to go back to the PowerPoint. I'm going to go back to our list that we made based on many of the things that y'all brought. Oops, that wasn't right. I thought that was what I was going to do. It didn't actually turn out to be what I was going to do because I didn't click it like that. It likes me to click it like that. So if we go back to taking these same 6 pieces of the puzzle, we take these same unmet needs, physical unmet needs, and emotional distress or expression of unmet needs, we start thinking about how are we going to use that to manage the person getting frustrated. So what do we need to know about that person as a human being, their health and wellness, thinking about the way they, where they are in their brain change, and thinking, what are we doing? What is the environment doing? Is there noise instead of music for Rachel? Because there's a huge difference between noise and music. And finally, how are we managing people's times? So we start thinking about something like, I think one of the ones somebody mentioned is getting the person to an appointment. If the person never has liked getting up in the morning, and we know them as about them, that person, but they've also never liked to wait, then we might want to think about waiting an extra month and getting that first thing right after lunch appointment. So adding in those pieces of the puzzle, what we know about brain change, what we know about GEMS, what we know about human beings, and what we know about unmet needs. And then we can start coming up with some strategies. Because here's the reality. I think I'd rather invest time than waste time. So if I start investing some time into figuring out who is this person, what's going on with their brain change, what's going on with them physically, what can we do as far as time and environment and stakeholders or people in the environment, I can then use a lot of time, but actually make that connection and not waste a lot of time. And speaking of time, oh nuts, somebody reset my computer, because I know it can't possibly be 11:26, but it looks like it is 11:26. So I'm going to share one last thought with you from the PowerPoint, going kind of all the way back almost to the end. Remembering that you've got where you can get this for your own look, where you can make connections with PAC and the resources there. You can make connections to get more education and build some skills. You can make connections to get that support that you need and to get the respite that you need, the resources that you need as well. And I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite philosophers, Dr. Seuss. Because one of the things that Dr. Seuss said that gives me direction in the work that I do with people living with dementia is this thought. Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. So if we think back to the moments that we've seen with Matthew and Teepa, the moments that we've seen with Melanie and Tipa, the moments that we saw yesterday with Melanie and Matthew in the kitchen. We think about how do we take those moments and hold on to them as emotional memories that bring us connection and engagement and peace and love, and can hopefully let go of some of those moments of challenge and distress. So I think I have about 2 minutes left. If somebody wants to drop a question into the chat, we'll see if we can think about some ways we can use those 6 puzzle pieces to do it. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Ellen and thank her for all of her wonderful support in having me back and inviting us here and giving me the honor and the privilege of being with you. And I also truly want to thank Christine and Rachel, because it would not have been close to the same without them. So thanks to both, and Steve for keeping us all together. So thanks to everybody.
Bravo. Thank you, Christine and Rachel. That was awesome. And Melanie, thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Wow. So much great information. What a great delivery. I think people were really engaged as well with some really good comments and questions. We appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
Well,
And it
before they
looks,
leave,
Yep.
we can spin the wheel of names, see who
Yes.
wins the book, and tell us about the book again, Melanie.
Oh, it's so cool. It's the most amazing book. It's a picture book and it's based on the gems. But the reality is I've used it not just with children, but also with adults, because it gives a beautiful story about thinking about what are the preserved abilities and how do we make those connections. I think Christine has it and brought it up to show the picture of it. So really, truly a lovely, lovely book from Lynn Postle and Tipa Snow. So a beautiful
Great.
work.
All right, well, let's see who's gonna win, and then we're gonna give away 2 more books because we're doing them between each of the speakers.
Yeah, and then we're gonna ask folks. We're gonna put them in the mail for the winner. Oh, we have a
Okay.
winner.
Vernal Hensley. So if Vernal Hensley is on the discussion, you've won, and we'll be in touch with you to get that book in your hot little hands.
Yeah, we're going to mail it to you. We're gonna need to make sure we've got your mailing address. So we will be reaching out. So congratulations, Vernal Hensley. Yay.
Great.
Okay.
And okay, so we've got, it looks like a 15-minute break before our next session, which is care transitions and healthy ideas with Laura Daniel. And I think I may have seen Laura on there. So we're good to go. So everybody enjoy your 15-minute break. And again, thanks to the Tipa Snow team for such a great presentation.
Awesome. Steve, thanks you guys. Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, I see Vernal replied that he never wins anything and he was very excited. They were very excited to win. I don't know. We're going to reach out and get your address. That's awesome. Okay. And Steve, can we go ahead and put up the sponsor logo slide, and as we
Sure.
encourage folks to visit the exhibit hall as well. We want to thank our sponsors again. This could not be possible without our sponsors, really. Our presenting sponsors, Virginia Geriatric Education Center and Culpeper Wellness, and our sponsors, AARP, Rappahannock Rapidan Community Services, the Harbor at Renaissance, the Villa, Culpeper Human Services. Thank you all so much. Please, please visit the exhibit hall. Yes. Have a break. Kermit says, have a break.
Okay, excellent. All right, let me
We'll see you back here at 11:45.
Got it. All right.